Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. I, 27 female, have a brother, 30 male, who is a hard-working mechanic. He doesn't make a ton of money, and his wife, my sister-in-law, is a stay-at-home mom to their 3-year-old son. Because of their financial situation, I started a 529 college savings plan for my nephew to help out with his future education costs. My brother and sister-in-law were really happy about it, which was a relief because my sister-in-law and I don't always see eye to eye. She's very traditional, and my being a career-focused woman has been a sore point for her. Anyway, yesterday was a big day for me. It was to celebrate both my birthday and the 4th anniversary of being cancer-free. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2018 and beat it. Due to COVID, I hadn't been able to celebrate the past 2 years, so this year I wanted to make it special. My parents were wonderful and helped plan a small but meaningful party at their place. They prepped everything, decorated the house, and even got me a really beautiful fancy cake. Just before the party started, I went to the kitchen to bring out the cake, only to find my sister-in-law feeding a chunk of it to my nephew. I was completely shocked and honestly lost it. This party was a big deal to me, and the cake was a centerpiece. When I confronted her, she said she didn't know it was for the party, even though it was clearly a large, nice cake with slogan on top, and that it was just cake. So what's the big deal? She said her kid wanted it, so she let him have it. When I told her how upset I was, she called me immature and said I was overreacting over small little things as usual. She was referring to the incident last year when I made a fuss about my tonsillitis thinking my cancer was back. My brother just stayed silent through all of this, and few family members tried to dissipate the situation by telling me it was okay, but it wasn't okay. My parents ended up asking my brother, sister-in-law, and nephew to leave, which only made things more awkward. My sister-in-law went to the car sobbing, and my nephew was very distressed. I feel terrible about how it all went down, but I also feel like my sister-in-law was being incredibly thoughtless and disrespectful. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for lashing out at my sister-in-law over the cake? Edit. To clarify, I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and beat it, which is why this celebration was so important to me. I've been in remission since 2018 now. Update. First off, thank you for the overwhelming love on my original post. I've read through every single one, and it's given me a lot to think about. I realize now that the cake incident was just the tipping point for a lot of unresolved issues between my sister-in-law and me. To answer some of the common questions, yes, my sister-in-law and I have had more issues in the past, mostly revolving around our differing views on life. I've always tried to keep the peace for my brother's sake, but this latest incident made me see things differently. After reading your comments and taking some time to think things through, I've decided to pull the 529 account I set up for my nephew. I know this might sound harsh, but as many of you pointed out, my nephew isn't my responsibility. I started that fund out of love and a desire to help. But if my brother and sister-in-law can't even extend basic courtesy and respect, then I'm not sure I should be making sacrifices for them. The fact that neither my brother nor my sister-in-law reached out to apologize or even talk about what happened was the final nail in the coffin. Besides, my cancer will be back, and it's better I be prepared with as much funding as possible. I've considered everything carefully, and yes, it was a hard decision to make. It makes me feel like an a-hole, but at this point, I think it's the best thing for me. I've spent too much time trying to keep the peace and making compromises that weren't appreciated. I'm done. On a brighter note, my parents, who have been nothing but supportive, threw me a small party the next day with another cake. It was simple but incredibly thoughtful. I nearly cried. It wasn't about the cake itself, but the gesture and the love behind it. I realized that I have people in my life who truly care about me, and that's what matters most. Again, thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts and helped me see things more clearly. This has been a tough situation, but I'm ready to move forward. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my girlfriend's son anymore? I'll try to keep this short. I've been with my girlfriend coming up on a year November. She has a 15-year-old son. When we first got serious, I tried my best to bond with him, but he had no interest in it. A few weeks ago, both of them were staying with me, and while she was at work, he gave me a really hard time. He even broke a small statue I had, on purpose I think. And when I told him to go sit in the living room, he told me he didn't have to listen to me and went outside. When my girlfriend got home, I told her about it, and she said that he had a point and to leave punishment up to her. Since then, I've had the opinion that if I can't have a say in how he acts, then he is 100% her responsibility. I've told her that if she and him comes to my place and she leaves, she needs to hire a sitter. I've also stopped paying for meals when we all go out to eat. Instead of paying the whole bill, I have it split and pay for mine. I don't make attempts to plan stuff he might enjoy as well. It's only been a few weeks, but it's causing a lot of fights. I feel like I'm just standing up for myself though, and setting up some boundaries. She's right, he is her son. Everybody sucks here. You're right to set boundaries, especially when it comes to your own home and finances. But the way you're going about it seems pretty harsh. It sounds like you're pushing the kid more than anything, and that's only going to drive a bigger wedge between you and him. And likely between you and your girlfriend too. On the flip side, your girlfriend isn't doing much to help the situation either. She should be more proactive in mediating the relationship between you and her son, especially since you've been together for nearly a year. At the end of the day though, if the situation doesn't improve, it might be time to re-evaluate whether this relationship is worth the stress it's causing both you and the kid. Now for some comments. Well, it's a double-edged sword. He's in your house, it's your rules, he's not your responsibility, but those actions will probably make you single at the same time. I'm on your side, but good luck. Everybody sucks here. You're being immature. Just talk to her about it and agree on the boundaries going forward. She should be setting boundaries with her son and teaching him to not be disrespectful in someone else's home. The kid should apologize for any damage. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for sharing a hotel room for one night with a woman who got sick that I work with and not explicitly telling my wife I was doing so beforehand? So I work in tech, and my job is to go to a customer site to do deployments of our software. We've improved our processes a crap ton in the past few years, where I'm not there doing manual steps for a week and fixing dozens of issues. Generally, it's a fly in on a Sunday night, work Monday, Tuesday, and leave Thursday. And generally, most of the work is done early Wednesday. So last week, it's me and this woman I work with. We're on the hook for this latest deploy. We've worked together for years and are pretty good friends. My wife has always been hesitant of the friendship, but never outright said I had to stop being friends. It's one of those funny things if I go out of town with this female coworker. Wife has to FaceTime me at random times of the day, and especially before bed. But for a male coworker, I get one FaceTime call the entire trip. But yeah, this last trip, we are flying in and coworker tells that she isn't feeling too hot. Not like she has a 105 Fahrenheit temperature, but was a little down. We get to the city Sunday and go our separate ways once we check into the hotel. Monday morning, I'm downstairs at 7:30 a.m. waiting for her to come down since I had the rental car, and she's a no-show. I go back upstairs and knock on her door. It took like a minute or two for her to open it, and she looked a hot mess, like severely ill, and I'm like asking is she okay, and she's like she needs to go to the doctor now. She had apparently fallen asleep at 7 p.m. and was just waking up. Long story short, email the job, let them know the situation, take her to the doctor, flu, 103 Fahrenheit fever. Dehydrated, I drop her back off at the hotel with the prescriptions, fluids, fever meds, and her cell phone charging beside her. Rushed to the job to start supporting the deployment. Texted wife what happened, but no time for phone calls or a lot of texting because I'm behind. I get back to the hotel and check on her. She was still in pretty bad shape. She asks me if she could stay the night with her. There are 2 beds when I checked in again right before bedtime, and I agree. Things came to a head the next morning when my wife called the next morning, and I answered in a whispered hello, and before I could even tell her that I had stayed the night, she asked why I'm whispering. "'Cause she's asleep. Why are you in her room? You stayed the night?" Hellfire rained down on me. She was beyond furious, said I should have taken her to a hospital if she needed someone to sit with her during the night. I was just trying to help a friend and coworker, and don't think I did wrong. But she's calling for counseling and beyond angry at me, saying I should have texted even if I was thinking about staying, and not just told her the next day. You're the ass. I get that you were trying to help a sick coworker, but staying the night in her hotel room without telling your wife beforehand was a really poor choice. The fact that you didn't communicate this to your wife, especially knowing she's already uncomfortable with your friendship with this woman, shows a lack of consideration for her feelings. You could have easily sent a quick text or made a call to let your wife know what was going on before making the decision to stay the night. Transparency is key in a marriage, and this situation would understandably make anyone feel uncomfortable or suspicious. Now for some comments. What were you supposed to do to take care of this individual that you needed to be in her bedroom all night? You're not a doctor, so I guess I just don't understand what it was you were supposed to do for this woman. Also, it just screams of inappropriateness. This is a coworker. This could have ramifications at work, let alone your marriage. You're the ass, of course. There was no reason to share a hotel room while out of town with a woman that your wife is already uncomfortable with because you were taking care of her. Ew, I would be beyond livid. And that's if I even stuck around after. I don't think I could be with someone who doesn't have the common sense to know that is not okay. I think it's a weird thing to do. I think it's even weirder that you didn't tell your wife earlier. And I don't think it was appropriate she asked you to stay. You are co-workers, not friends. I get asking if you could come check on her later, but if she was that sick, she could still be at the hospital. Why are you against counseling? If you think you're right, wouldn't it be a good place to talk about it anyways? Your wife is angry and upset, and you insist you did nothing wrong. So how do you think it's going to be resolved?